lied about this, you would probably have a harder time getting control after telling the truth. If what you say is true, though, we might have to think again. The court turned to Seymour. What can I get from you? We both sat down and looked at each other. Grady, are you sure you want to do this? Let's do it. My nice lawyer passed a piece of paper to Marcy's lawyer across the table. This is a story that was written about 6 weeks before Glenda Stevens was born. The report clearly shows that Robert Logan did not have any sperm. He was unable to have any children, so Mr. Logan could never have a kid. That is why Janet Logan, who is fertile, could never have a child. Marky turned pale and her eyes grew big. She was getting angry again, just like she did in my office. That is not true. That news story is not true. You're making this up to get Robert's child away from me. As he tried to calm her down, her lawyer said something in her ear. She finally seemed to calm down a bit. The man in charge moved 3 more pieces of paper across the table. Glenda Stevens' DNA is looked at in the first form. The second form is a test of Grady Stevens' DNA. The third report compares the first 2 and proves beyond a question that Grady Stevens is Glenda Stevens' father. Does anyone have a question? Marcy was crying at this point. She was no longer mad. She was now just crushed. As her lawyer asked for a short break, she couldn't stop crying. Following the break, my ex-wife's lawyer agreed to let me have custody but asked for some kind of visiting deal. I agreed to let Marcy have Glenda every other weekend and on 2 holidays each year that she chose. As planned, Marcy chose to have Glenda for her birthday and Christmas. Marcy stayed quiet for the rest of the meeting. I forgot to say anything to her before going back to work and left Seymour to finish up the papers. I was shocked at how cheaply I got off. In the past few years, if Marcy had been a better friend, I would have been happy to share the income. I never withheld anything from her. Not even money or love. I was ready and willing to do anything for her, but as a partner I hadn't lived up to her standards. I could never figure out what Robert Logan had that I didn't, or what he did for her that I couldn't. In terms of his looks, the pictures Janet left didn't show him to be anything special. For Marcy, I gave photos of the shots in the report. Reports from 2 different sources showed that Robert met up with other women at a hotel while he was seeing Marcy. I hoped she had fun reading that. I tried many times to get Marcy to explain, but she always said no. I felt like a failure after the breakup. Glenda and Janet helped me feel a little better. Michaela moved in with Robert's mom, Glenda. It looked like they had become friends in the past few years. Marcus's plan did not work out well, which is a shame. My ex-wife was slowly selling off the expensive jewelry and clothes that she had gotten while I was married in order to make money for herself. It took her a while to figure out that. The mother of her lover was also doing that. Marky moved out after 6 months and went to Norristown to live with her sister. Marcy used to pick up Glenda every weekend at first. She began calling and giving reasons why she couldn't come. It got harder to explain why they were calling so often. She finally stopped coming altogether. She didn't mind when her mom canceled because Janet and I would go the extra mile to make her happy. We became more like a family as we spent more time together. We got married right before Christmas, and Janet moved in. Over the holidays, Marcy went on a trip with single people to the Caribbean and wasn't able to pick up Glenda as planned. Everyone was glad about that. After 2 weeks, I asked for the parenting amendment to be thrown out, and it was agreed upon. Finally, someone bought my business, and we were now making a lot of money. Janet is very happy because she is pregnant for the first time in her life. There will be times when we need Social Security because of this, but it will all be worth it in the end. Finally, life is good. Yes, this is the end of the story for today. Were you ready for it, or did it take a turn you didn't see coming? I'm interested in what you think. Write them down in the comments and let's talk about them. If you were interested in this story, please click the like button. Also, now is a great time to join our group if you're new here or haven't joined yet. Every day I bring you new, interesting stories, so click that button to join and make sure you're always up to date. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. I was sure that the test would prove that Glenda was mine. I found the Volvo car at State College with a little help from people I know who work at the DMV. The boy from the frat was glad to give it to me for twice what he paid for it. I had the new title with Marcy's name on it after a week. He told me that the divorce could go through as written as long as nothing was changed in the original request. We couldn't find something bad about it that made us want to change it. Even though it's been 8 years, Marcy's name is still valid because it was certified. The document was sealed by Seymour's notary after I signed it. We just had to wait now. It took a long time to pass. Things did not get better between me and my wife. Every day, my bond with my daughter got stronger. Every day, my friendship with Janet Logan got stronger. After about a month, I finally got Janet to agree to meet me for lunch on a day she wasn't working. It was nice, and there were no strings attached. I promised her I wouldn't do anything that would make the other workers think I was interested in her. She told me that her life with me was more important than her job. I thought things would get better, but I wasn't going to rush anything. I tried to talk to Marcy about our marriage several times over the next few weeks. She wouldn't start a conversation or even answer questions. We filed for divorce, and I didn't tell her that it was being handled and that she would soon be told it was final. Mary, my loving wife, stormed into the office in the middle of the day and in the middle of the week. "What the hell is this?" she demanded as she threw some official-looking papers on my desk. "I am not sure, but I believe the divorce request that you made 8 years ago has just been finalized." "You son of a blip, you can't do that. Everything has changed since then. And if you think I am going to let you get away with this crap, you are crazy." "What has changed, dear?" "Just because your lover died doesn't mean we could not proceed with the divorce. I agreed to all of your terms. So you have no grounds to protest. I suggest you get a lawyer if you want to contest the divorce. And in the meantime, I would like you to get all your things out of my house which you gave to me. I will gladly get out of your house, and I will get this piece of shit divorce notice thrown out. You will pay, and you will pay big. Glenda and I will be gone this afternoon, and I will send somebody for my stuff tomorrow. Sorry, dear, but if you read paragraph 7, you will notice that you gave full custody of Glenda to me. Until you get it resolved, she is mine. If you try and take Glenda without my permission, I will have you arrested. I promise." By this time, Marcy was boiling mad. All of her words were screams instead of words she spoke. Her neck muscles were tight, and her forehead veins were bulging out. Every time she spoke, her lips moved. I wasn't able to hear what she said for a minute. She was so crazy that I was just shocked. She finally got the papers and stormed out the door. It was great to have peace and quiet. Being served a cup of coffee by my secretary made me feel calm and at ease. She just smiled and didn't say anything. The rest of the afternoon was spent withdrawing insurance plans, cell phones, and credit cards. Janet agreed to have dinner with Glenda and me that night when I called her. There was a friendly shoulder I could lean on. Glenda and Janet talked to each other for a long time. It didn't go the way I had planned. After a few days, Seymour called me. In order to settle the issues related to the divorce, Marcy hired a lawyer and set up a meeting. There was going to be a family judge there to watch and act as a mediator. Seymour said that Marcy's lawyer didn't seem very sure that they could get the divorce order thrown out. Instead, he seemed more interested in getting me to give up custody of Glenda. As an update, I agreed to find a middle ground, but not give up. At first, the meeting moved slowly, and most of the time was spent going over each of Marcy's requests from the divorce petition. Seymour gave us checks for the agreed-upon amounts, and we sat politely while the official complaints about how unfair the settlements were heard. Seymour didn't say anything at all. She looked shocked when I moved the Volvo's keys and title across the table. Finally, the issue of who would have control came up. Marcy asked the judge if she could say something, and the judge said she could. For the sake of my daughter, I've been stuck in a marriage I don't love for 8 years now. I loved Robert Logan very much, and I was happy to give him the child that his wife couldn't. Grady Stevens is not the father of my daughter. The father is Robert Logan. Glenda doesn't belong to Mr. Stevens in any way, and I won't let a stranger raise the daughter of the man I loved. Because of this, I want to have full care of Glenda Stevens. The judge finally spoke up after being quiet the whole time. Do you mean to say that Glenda Stevens is the child of an affair you had with Robert Logan while you were married to Grady Stevens, Mrs. Stevens? Yes, sir. Robert Logan and I were lovers and soulmates. The way you say it sounds a little low. It never felt as bad to us as cheating on our partner. When his disaster happened, we were going to start our own life together. Glenda is proof that we love each other, and I don't want Mr. Stevens to talk to her in any way. Because you. Martha, my wife, was shopping in London again. It seems like she stays away from home more every year. Even though we're no longer married, she doesn't want a divorce and I can't afford to give her one. My software business has grown a lot in the past 5 years. I was barely able to keep our heads above water for more than 10 years. Then the hardware caught up with my software package, and everything went through the roof. There was interest from 3 of the big companies. I just had to wait for the right person to grab it. It was really worth a lot more than $10 million now. Mostly in stock that I owned. Marcy worked for a law company in Reading about 8 years ago. At the time, the pay was very helpful. Even though she was only a clerk, she worked long hours and had to make a few overnight trips for the company. I was busy with the new software, so I didn't think much about her departures. Things were fine between us until then. Even though I was terrible at staying on top of my work, our personal life was great, and we spent a lot of time doing things and having fun with each other. After about a year with the law company, we were barely friends, and the closeness between us dropped to almost nothing. I didn't like what was going on. But I was sure it was just a phase she was going through. Our 2 kids were both in high school. They didn't really need to be helped. Scott was excited about the Marines and Bradley was getting ready for Penn State. Burke's Legal's Marcy's boss was Robert Logan. He seemed like a nice guy, and I met him and his wife a few times at work events. Marky came home one day upset and told me that Robert had been shot and killed by his wife. Even though she didn't say anything else, she quit soon after and never worked again. Our marriage didn't get better. She became angry and spoke out against things. There are some things about her that I would like to say were good, but I can't. I tried to stay away from her as much as possible, but it was hard. It got even worse when she found out she was pregnant. I thought having a baby would make things better at home, but it didn't. Glenda is what Marcy named our new baby. She loved the girl so much and was always making a fuss about her. Things kept getting worse between us. Marcy began to spend more time away from home as Glenda aged. We moved into a new house with staff because the business was making money. She made the most of having a live-in babysitter for Glenda, which Marcy had. I never asked her where she went or why. I only knew that there were a lot of costs. Even though I was making money faster than she could spend it, I was still mad. She wouldn't let me talk to her or find out what happened between us. Of course, having different rooms didn't help. I didn't know what I did wrong, so I couldn't fix it. I finally gave up. It would cost me $2 million to get a divorce, and the new business would probably fail. I was mad at myself for letting it get this far. Even though I hired my own lawyers, I still couldn't see a good way out. Glenda was becoming a lovely young woman. I did everything I could to spend time with her. Even though Marcy kept us apart most of the time, Glenda and I became close friends while she was away. We told Glenda the secret, and she liked it. The third grade was going well for her. I was able to attend the PTA meetings and the staff meetings. Marcy had other important things to do most of the time. Bradley and Scott were both really good on their own. Even though my marriage was bad, my kids made up for it. Then I had a good day. Janet Logan had come to my office to wait for me. I was shocked because I thought she was locked up for killing her husband. She looked good for her age. Her hair was smooth and shoulder length. It was a mix of gray, silver, and black. Not much makeup was on her face, and her skin looked smooth without being soft. The shape of her eyebrows looked natural and looked great on her. She looked both tough and girly at the same time. Janet, I must say I'm surprised that you look good. Thank you, Grady. I wasn't sure if you would remember me. It's been 8 years, and I thought no one would remember me by now. Would you like some coffee? She said that black would be great. Janet, I feel truly ashamed of myself right now. And yes, I know what you're going through. I don't want to say anything that will make you feel bad. Please correct me if I say or do something that might be wrong. Grady, I've been in jail for 8 years, so I'm pretty tough about it all. Don't worry about how I feel. By the way, how is Mrs. Stevens? That's not something I want to talk about. Shall we just say that things could be better? I asked. I'm sorry, but that's why I came to see you. I need to talk to you about Marcy. I'm not being mean or angry, but I feel like some things need to be put to rest. I put the coffee cup in front of her, but I sat in the chair next to my desk, instead of behind it. I was interested in what she had to say and wanted her to feel at ease while she did so. I pressed the audio button and told my secretary not to talk over us. Grady, did you pay any attention to the trial? Not at all. Even though Marcy told me what had happened, I wasn't really interested in it. I was busy starting up the business, and she wasn't wanting to talk much at the time. I think she was sad about his death. I guess it's more than you'd think. A lot of this will be a surprise to you since it looks like you have no idea what was going on. I understand why you didn't want to make me mad. I'm going to tell you some unpleasant things, if it becomes too difficult. Just tell me and I will stop. Maybe we should have had some scotch instead of the coffee, I replied. There was a little half laugh from both of us. On the day that I shot Robert, he was planning on leaving me and running away with Marcy. Robert had stopped by the house just long enough to present me with divorce papers. Your wife was waiting in the car. They were going to come see you after they finished with me. I had been aware of their affair for some time and had documentation and a few pictures. The fact that he was asking for a divorce didn't bother me because I was planning the same thing. Janet, I had no idea. I was living in my own little world at the time. I guess it was my fault in a way that the whole thing happened. I am sorry that my poor performance as a husband contributed to your marital problems, I replied. Grady, there was more. Robert had always wanted a family. But we were never able to have any. He was always moaning about how bad I was as a wife and putting the blame on me. As he gave me the divorce papers, he told me that Marcy was pregnant with his child and would give him the family he had always wanted. Although I turned around and began to walk away. He kept insulting me and calling me rude names. It wasn't enough that he was going and getting a divorce. He wouldn't stop making me feel like I wasn't a person. It looked like he would never stop yelling at me. Finally, I lost it. I reached into the chest drawer, pulled out the gun and fired it. I am not sure if I shot him. Are you saying that my daughter Glenda is a Roberts? Robert's daughter Glenda is not Marcy, but I think she thinks she is. Could you explain that? I asked. I checked myself more than once. A lot of tests showed that I was healthy. I finally got a test result for Robert's sperm, and it came back negative. I didn't tell him. Also, Robert's mom's name is Glenda. That name seems to have been what they decided on when Marcy found out she was pregnant. What did Marcy choose for the name? I had no idea where she got it. Still, I believe you are correct. She thinks that Robert's child Glenda is hers. That helps explain a lot of things. Would you like more? Coffee? No, but I still need to talk about some other things. Are you sure you have time? We're okay. Do not stress over anything. That's the nice thing about being the boss when I went to prison. All of the things in the house went into storage. Robert's briefcase was included. I was going through it last week and found this. Janet handed me the original divorce papers that Marcy was going to give to me the day that Robert got shot. The papers were signed, dated, and notarized. Robert and Marcy worked for a law firm, so the terms of the divorce were very precisely spelled out. Is this still good? I asked. Janet laughed. I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer. Read paragraph 7. She is giving me full custody of all the kids. Wow. She'd be really mad if she knew I could get Glenda. The boys are long gone, but she would lose it if I got her little angel. Could I have this so my lawyers can look it over, Grady? It's yours. It doesn't mean anything to me. I hope it goes well for you. Here are some more things you might or might not be interested in. Janet handed me 2 manila envelopes. The pictures that my detective took are in the small envelope. They are very sexual in nature. I have no use for them, but maybe they will be of value to you. The large envelope contains the investigation results that my private investigator gave me and some other interesting papers. You can look them over and decide what is important to you. Thank you. We both sat and looked at each other for a moment. She was a very impressive woman, and I was glad she came to see me. I should go back to work now. Thanks for seeing me. I feel better now that these loose ends are being tied up. You don't have any job openings for an ex-con. Do you? My favorite lawyer, Seymour Schlamp, was thrilled about the divorce papers that were 8 years old, but had no expiration date. He couldn't wait to start and felt like a kid in a candy store. Marcy didn't ask for amounts of anything, she just wanted exact numbers. She asked for $14,000 from the savings and bank accounts. 8 years ago, that was about half of the whole, but now it's almost nothing. Everything else was the same. There was just one catch. It was the 1995 Volvo station car she owned at the time. It was sold 5 years ago. That car had to be found. The company hired Janet Logan to work in the software testing department. The job was pretty basic, but I thought she would be able to handle it. Another benefit was that I could see her often. I wished I knew Janet better because I liked her. Craig and I told Glenda and Marcy about our DNA tests, but not her. The results wouldn't come back for a few weeks, but Seymour needed that time to make sure the divorce forms were complete.